thank you guys for coming in. What I'm doing today is just going to go over the basics of SuiteDash. There's a ton of different businesses that are using SuiteDash currently, and honest, I didn't know about SuiteDash until I stumbled across searching for it like everyone else has. So I just created literally a 3 slider just to kind of give you guys an introduction of what SuiteDash is, who I am. So my name is Marie. I am Power Visionaire CEO to master the chaos with effective systems. And then I also just really focus on the task execution and emphasizing personal well-being. And also, of course, business growth. I am not talking a lot. The only thing I want to just let you guys know is how people use SuiteDash. So SuiteDash is really known for the comprehensive like all-in-one tool. It's a fully white labeled client portal, which a lot of people take advantage of. I know that if you've ever set this up, you're like, oh, well, I really want to make sure that no one sees that it's another company. You can white label it. Also, it ranges from a lot of different features that a lot of people don't really know about or take advantage of. So it gives you the ability to do appointment scheduling, file exchange, e-signature, marketing, support tickets, and so much more. It also has the ability to be customized fully to brand it in your own business. There is a big disclaimer that I just want to point out again. I am not a guru. I just learned a lot by doing a lot of setups as well as just being able to play around with it myself. So this is me doing this in good faith for support for your business. And if you have any questions, we'll talk through it accordingly. This is a live interactive session, so you can come off of mute. You can actually speak. We can actually talk about things because I want to make sure I'm answering your questions. Because I'm trying to gear this to be outlined, I have focused the 30 minutes on the platform branding, the email branding, all of the branding items. And then the second 20 minutes is going to be just the customization. And the last 10 is going to be Q&A. Again, we can conversate throughout this entire process. So don't feel as if I'm just keeping you there. Now, without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to switch over my screen. I tend to do these kind of like talks very quickly, but if I am going too quick, please slow me down, ask a question. I just want to make sure this is as interactive as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share this screen. So I'm going to jump in to a SuiteDash account that's kind of set up but not set up. I use this for my demos. And so when I speak on just what the customization is, which is platform branding. Your branding, when I start in any kind of setup inside of SuiteDash, is your branding. When you come into a SuiteDash account, you're going to see SuiteDash everywhere. You're going to see their information on your homepage. I want to make sure it looks like my branding colors, my fonts, all of the things. So we start with the presets of the actual theme, as well as we go down and we enter into every logo. So you have the ability to do the dark mode and you have the ability to do the regular mode. I've not really used dark mode because of the fact that it's just not something that I like using. However, I do recommend that you have a logo specifically for dark mode because it will make a difference. So if you're not sure what the two differences is here, this longer version is going to be what this dashboard logo is, and then the shorter version is going to be the mobile-friendly version. It's very easy to just set up. I would always recommend to play around with sizing because even though they give you the parameters here, that they're just not always perfect based on my logo. So I make those specifically for that, as well as you have the ability to connect some Google fonts. This is so amazing. They implemented this a couple of months ago and it pulls directly from Google. What it does is it has different types of font families. So you can pull literally any font and then you can customize the weight of the font. Some of them don't have weights and some of them don't have font styles, but ones that do, you're able to change the weight. And I'm not too sure which one would have one. I'm just pulling random ones, but some of them will have those different complexities. The primary headers are going to be scattered around. The secondary ones are going to be what you see on the left side here, which is that menu. And so those headers, I like to make sure those are like the most eligible. If you're doing anything, you want to make sure people can actually read it. So I love sticking with like Poppins because that's like my favorite one to use. It's just very clear. But if it's not your brand font, then by all means, choose something that's great. Fun fact, when they did not have this feature, I used to actually use CSS. to build this out because they have a CSS section where you can actually create a code, but a lot of people don't know custom code, so that's also okay. When you're scrolling down, you have the platform colors because you want to make sure that your main color is going to literally be populated everywhere. I would say put the most dominant color here and the one that can be the most eligible. So for example, you see that when I put white here, my name disappeared. I would say make sure that you're looking at every element that's changing in front of you to see exactly what's going to be updated, as well as the text colors. So text colors are updated, and you can see as I'm moving, you see this left one moving as well as the menu. Make it so that you can see it, but also keep in mind that it's going to be scattered around, as well as the icon colors. Those are flexible. I mean, you can choose whatever accent color you have, and know that it just will create, and if I turn this off, it will create that kind of like scenery, like the black on red. It's very unique to your branding. When I went ahead and touched these buttons here, it has customization that you can do to that left side. So the top, you can either make it darker as to what your native colors are, or you can customize it to being a color that you can slide and say what you want to choose. Same thing with the avatar. Avatar is going to be this section. It also affects the menu drop downs. So you can change those colors accordingly as well. Again, make sure that it ties out to your branding, but that is just eligible. And then the other thing is the background for the menu itself. I would always say just make sure that you're thinking about your brand, but cohesively. I'm going to jump quickly through things because I want to make sure we're staying on time. But this entire section here is going to talk about your logo for the sign up page. So when someone is confirming their login, this is what is going to affect this. So you have a separate logo for this, as well as you have all right, so more people are joining in. Okay. I think it will be able to link her. Okay, so you have a separate logo for this, and then you also have a background that you can utilize for this as well. Please keep in mind that this is just for the login confirmation. People confuse it for the custom URL page. It's two different pages. This page is specifically just for the account confirmation. So when they're first getting an account, this looks a little chaotic. So let me go ahead and fix this up a little bit. The other thing that I want to mention as well is going down here that you can preview it at any time, but you can also change the colors for that as well. It's very good to make sure everything is modified to your branding because it will stay inside of SuiteDash's colors. So you want to change that. Down here, you see that there is a loader that comes onto your page. This is what this loader is. I've been taken to this drawing frame, which is what that animation is, but you can customize that as well. I like the image beating, or I can even do the image loading, and I can change the size of the logo if I wanted to, and change also the background animation. So I'm going to do a couple things here to show you guys what that is. There are default animations that you can have. So if you want to not use your image, but use one of the default settings, then, completely works. Or if you wanted to go ahead and utilize one of the ones that are set inside of your own, you can create your own logo and then you can preview it. And I like the loading one, it's pretty cool. If you said, oh, I actually want it to be a little bit transparent so people can see the background as well, that's where that background color comes into place. And then you can also preview how it looks there. So that's the setup that. CSS, I'm not going to touch on because a lot of people don't really use CSS. And then the white labeling is just the toggle on and off super admin settings. And so the white labeling option, there is like some options that you can see that other people can't see. It's available for admins as well as you, as well as there's an ask button that's normally I like to hide. If you guys have ever seen it, it's normally at that bottom left. And then you have that templates library that's normally at the bottom here that you can hide as well. This hides it for everyone. And then you have the Academy visibility, which kind of hides it by the individual or by the role, which is pretty cool as well. So once you set that up, it kind of gives you the ability to just have everything in a very cohesive branding, the next thing I always toggle to is going to be the email branding. Email branding is going to be your messaging. So you want to update the name of the business as well, the name that you want to display onto your emails. So this is defaulted where SuiteDash will automatically put both in the from and the company name. You can adjust that. There are a few different ways to send emails. The default sending method is something that I like to use, but it's something that people will have to set up on the back end, as well as whenever you're setting up your Gmail or your Microsoft, I always recommend to do the DVS is what I call it, but the domain vendor verified sending, because this will help you to not be spam blocked, which means that it will put you into the spam folder or the junk folder. This will help prevent that. You can go through the steps and doing that. It's pretty simple, but it's very easy for you to just keep yourself verified. Of course, with anything, you have branding. So you have that logo that you'll be able to update, as well as the positioning of the logo, and then the main background color. I like to use the colors of my brand that is the most bold, but you have to remember that this is going to clash with it. So you can also make the main color to be like a darker color, and then whatever is not going to clash with your logo. And then the footer items is going to be separate in a different color if you chose to. You also have your footer information, so you can have the all of your social links as well as copywriting information. I've always suggested for people, if you have a direct link, just go ahead and just hyperlink this inside of your footer so that anytime people click on it, it can also hyperlink there. You can literally add whatever you want in here, because it is a what you see is what you get type of element. And that is a name SuiteDash uses. So you can add all the information there as well. So that takes care of what I do next. And normally I try to just go down this list. So when I'm coming in, if I know that I want to do some branding for my email templates, I normally do it down the list and say, okay, let me go and brand emails. This is going to store all of your emails. So it's going to store all of your invoice emails, all of your proposal emails, all of your invitation emails. The good thing is that for a proposal, yes, you have a question.
So my question, I was asking about the template library.
Yes.
Is there is is there a reason why we want to disable that or hide it? Is there some SuiteDash like branding in there that we need to be concerned about, or
So the amazing thing about the template library is that you have the ability to even contribute to it. And this is from real people making their own templates.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is a space where you can even do private ones, which I'll touch on as well. And then you have community ones, which are people literally creating them and putting them in here for your use case. So as you can see, like you can actually access them, and it'll show you what type of template it's for. So this seems to be a portal page template. So you can see that they customized it and they've done their due diligence of setting it up. So you can actually use this template within your company as well and modify it however you want. The great thing is that you can also create your own and just keep it inside of your system. But as you can see how many downloads have been done. So this is one of the very popular ones. And this is a CPA firm one. So it all depends on what your needs are. To answer your question directly, if you're a person that is big on creativity and you prefer to have fresh creative styles, you can hide it. But if you need inspiration, you can also put it here. It's just to hide it if you don't need it. So it's up to you essentially.
And I think I'm thinking in reference to building it out for a client. So
Yeah.
if I built it out for a client, so I think you're saying that I could create a template library that they could use under the private, or I don't know.
So with the private ones, essentially, yes, you can. If it's open though, it will show all of the templates to them.
Oh, okay, got it.
So if you're doing something inside of what I do is I create my own templates and then I share them a private link. It still has to stay open because they have to activate it. But I say, oh, you can browse in it if you want to, but I'll create custom creative ones. So that gives me leverage to make sure that they have my own designs instead of the ones that
Mm-hmm.
are out of here. If you don't have it open at all, they won't even know it exists. So it's just,
Okay,
mhm.
thank you.
No problem. So inside of the email templates, you have the ability to change literally almost every email inside of here. What I do like is that you can, inside of the portal access invitations, you can modify them here for defaults, but when you're sending a kickoff form, you can modify those defaults into something specifically for the forms itself. That I'll jump into in a second because it's a very great process that a lot of people just don't really have the capacity to understand in one sitting. But you can literally create anything from like a custom, and I'll go into one. You can create a custom invoice template that says, oh, I want to, when someone, and this is going to be generic for everyone, so keep that in mind. So I want to make sure that people are going to get a fantastic graphic email with the invoice so they don't know, oh, a new invoice has been populated. What happens when people come in here, they're not understanding what these default tokens are. These are for the system to understand what type of a contact are we sending this to. There's a couple statements that you're going to hear. You're going to hear that they're known meaning that they filled out some sort of form, they've had some interaction within your portal, and unknown. Unknown is essentially someone who's never filled out a form, never done anything, never have seen the inside of your portal. They're unknown. So the same thing goes for here, whereas if invited, meaning that they're known, they are already inside the portal, they already exist. And if they are not invited, they're unknown. So they've never actually seen your portal. They don't even know what anything looks like. So that would be the unknown. Those are the default tokens. So there's a separation, and even though it feels a little confusing, there's a separation in here for those two separate emails. This is not one email in one. This is just two separate emails, and it starts by the if invited, and it ends at company name and if, and then it starts at if not invited and ends at and if here as well. So if you want to modify the if invited mean the known characters, then you can make modifications in this email itself, and you can adjust it however you want. And if they're unknown, you can do that there. The difference is that people who are known, they just get a login link because they can log into the portal because they are known in the portal. And if they're unknown, they don't have a login link because they're just going to get the portal pay link immediately that they can directly open and make purchases on or pay the invoice. So those are the biggest differences. You're going to see that simultaneously throughout the entire email templates, as well as you're going to notice that you have different placeholders here as well. This is customization that is added inside of the summary, the body of the email. So you have the body where you're able to go ahead and say, okay, as a person who is a new invoice, I want to make sure their name is in here. But you also want to add, let's say, their company name and the invoice number. You can put those into the body of in the email. And then also, if you want to add certain items in the subject, you can also do that as well inside the subject. So those are the two key differences there that I like to make sure I point out. And when you go into templates and you're playing around with it, you're going to see that, let me go to the portal access one. There are going to be a couple different versions that might be for a couple different types of contacts. Internals are those internal. So internal individuals, externals are external. So it's really what it says. Internals are just like, hey, you're internally inside of the system already. I'm sending you this link. Externals are going to have those external one-time spaces. And it's, to me, it's, I guess they segregated it for the reasons of just making sure the contacts are segregated, but they're the same email. And then you have the company, which is different because you have the ability to send emails only to companies and separate from their individual person, meaning that if there's a salesperson inside of a company, you want to send it to the entire company at that transaction email, you can do it on that level, or you can send individual emails to them. That's something we're going to talk about too in another session. But you have those templates and those entire remakes that you can make. So I'm going to jump into the next stage, which is the custom URL. So of course, after you've done the branding, you want to make sure that you have your own custom URL. Setting this up is quite simple. The way that you would do it, I know that mine is already set up, but the way that you would do it, if you wanted to change it, I'm going to go back and do all the things so I can change. You would start off here When you're starting up here, essentially it will say, hey, you need to create a CNAME. So if you're not familiar with what a CNAME is, it's going to be the prefix of a domain. So if you wanted your domain to be called portal.yourdomain, then that will be what it is. If you want it to be called, secure.yourdomain, that's will be what it is. I always use the first one because the first one always works, but you're going to copy the first thing you want to do in your DNS settings when you go there, and this video tells you exactly what to do, but you're going to make sure that you put your CNAME prefix here first. So it's going to be like portal, and then in the middle of that is already going to show your domain name, and then it's going to have the other section, which is going to be adding in the subdomain URL. This is what you're going to put there to direct it to. And then once you do that, you're going to come now here, click on this checkbox. You're going to say begin process. It goes through this process. It will have that pop-up that you just saw. That pop-up is essentially for it to be queued inside of their system. What that does is it allows it to just simply go and be activated. So once it's activated, you'll come back here and you'll see that it will have another checkbox that says next. Once you see that, when I'm gonna come back to it when it does do it, you'll be able to customize your URL. So I always start that in the same branding process so I can be able to get things done quickly. And then I come back to it to make sure I can activate and update the branding. Next is going to be the custom the menus. So on this left side, this is what we call the menu items. So all of these menu items can be adjusted. There's always going to be a restore to default button here that gives you the ability to just restore all the things that you made differently inside of the current functionality. I sometimes need to change names for comprehension, just for me. So this inside of the default was called Office. I didn't like that, so I called it Finances. I've seen people call it Money because what inside of Office, all of it focuses on is literally financials. So it focuses on invoices, any estimates that you want to send, proposals. It has documents, which is known to be contracts. And then you have payments, which is going to be anything that was paid within the system. Gateways, which is how you connect people to pay. So Stripe, PayPal. And then you have the settings for all of this. So I've updated that name to this as a label for financials. I can also toggle if I want it to open into a new tab when I click this, anything in this menu, and that does affect it immediately. So if I click it and then I hit save, once I click anything in that menu, it's going to open into a new tab. And then the icon, I also sometimes like to change it. These are pre-selected, so you have to choose from their presets. However, I mean, they're pretty cool, so it's not like they have anything that I don't like. I sometimes change it up from time to time, but for just memorability, I kind of keep it to what it is. So you can always adjust that if you want to. When you do anything in terms of visibility, you're going to have this little eye that is the visibility button. When you click on this visibility, you can change who has access to that menu item. So it can go in depth into sub menus as well, but let's start from the hierarchy, which is, oh, okay, I really just want super admins to see it and admin, but I don't want the project manager to see it. I don't want any salespeople to see it. I just want the client perspectives, prospects, and then us. That's it. You can adjust that. You can also adjust it to default to only certain circles. A lot of times people say, I really want to just have my onboarding team to see it, but I don't want the certain type of onboarding people to see it. You can adjust that as well. So you can hide it in that sense as well and make those adjustments. And then this menu takes you into the sub menus, which is all of the things that's in the bottom of this. These are called sub menus. In these sub menus, of course, you have the ability again to adjust those names. However, you don't have the ability to adjust the icons because there's no icons. But you can change again here with limited access because not every access is provided to everyone in a role. So a staff member doesn't always get access to certain things based on their level of access. So you can take it away from certain people and add it to several people when you need to. So you can go through and adjust all of that. The other thing that you can do as well is add items, and adding them is for me a great way to add items that I just want to stay inside of my portal for and be able to hyperlink to it. So if I wanted to say I want to use QuickBooks, right? And I don't want to have to go out, go to QuickBooks. Of course, I could easily do that. I'm going to go to a random site here. Um, you can literally add this here, and I'm going to come back to it so you can see all the other features that's there. But I can add it here. Now, when I click this button, it takes me directly here. Of course, you can also do the thing of making sure that it opens in a new tab, but that's the flexibility that you have there. As well as I can set the icon if I wanted to. I can move it up and down in the menu if I wanted to, so I can change it to make it sure it's at the top. When you reposition it, it will be repositioned for everybody. And then also I have the ability to add sub menus. So I can say, okay, I want to add another link that goes to these link actions. So there's a ton in here. For example, you have the ability to link it to a specific portal page. If you want to link them to, like if there's just onboarding and you want to stay step one. So I've done that for tax clients. So instead of them having to go through this entire process of finding the page again, we have a menu that says step one, step two. And so I kind of link these to those actions, and then it gives me the ability to select the portal page. And then if I always also wanted to know, for example, if someone clicked it, then I can do a auto template trigger. So if someone clicks this, then I can do an automation, like send a text message to them or send a notification to me to make sure that I know that, okay, someone's looking at this page. Oh, okay. So those are something we'll talk about as well in another video, but it'll be very interesting for you guys to utilize it, as well as you can do some customizations for visibility. So same as you have for all of the other menu items, you can do the same thing here. We can just make it accessible to certain circles and no one else, or whatever it is that you want. And of course, you can always delete it if you don't need it. So that kind of takes care of all the settings here. I love creating these little menu items and then letting them be like the baseline for like staff submit forms, which for me, oh my gosh, it takes away the need of having to go into the forms, go find the link and do all the things. So I kind of just have a baseline where I use this for a case study. For example, when I'm setting up like a process for like tax clients and they need to send out like an 8879, then I will have a form staff submit button that kind of takes them to that form directly, and it'll automatically pull them to where they need to be. So it's literally use case for everyone. You can utilize that. Then you have the last thing in this side of the menu, which is going to be the managing of staff and team. If you guys have the lifetime deal, with the lifetime deal, you only get 3 team members. So you get locked at 3, that's it. If you have the ongoing monthly reoccurrence, then you have the ability to have unlimited staff. I love both options. I love more so the unlimited staff. But if you have the lifetime deal and you have more than 3 client or 3 staff members, you will just have to purchase more lifetime deals for that to happen. Adding a staff member is pretty easy. You have the option to select their avatar immediately. So if you wanted to create a picture for them or, do a URL for them, you can do that. And it gives you the ability to just crop it, resize it, and do all the things there. This will be their avatar. So in use cases, you can put this on the dashboard for if they're assigned as a coordinator to someone, or you can have this to be something that you use around the portal pages or such like that. You have the ability to select their role. If you don't know what these roles mean, I'm not going to go through them right now, but there is a wrench up here, or it's a buoy. So you can click on this for help, as well as you can select the role. The one thing that I will say, you can always go up, you cannot go down. So if you clicked on freelancing, you're like, oh, you're promoted, you're going to go over to teammate. All right, cool, you're there, but you can't go back to freelancer. You will have to then remove them by marking them inactive and then re-adding them as the new staff role. But let's say they were now a freelancer, but you want to put them admin, sure, but you can't put them back down. So they have to stick where you are. You can always promote them though. Selecting a team is what we're going to talk about after we come out of this menu, but you can create teams and select them to a team, as many teams as you want. You also can add their email here. This will send them the invitation. And then the first name is the only one that's like required, but their middle name, or their middle and last name, is something you can add here. Their display name is something that they can adjust. All this information is something they can adjust, but if they want to be called, like for example, my name is Marie and I want to be called like Mary instead, like a nickname, I can be just, that can be my display name. And then they can also have their individual time zone. Their time zone can be set to what your time zone is, or it can be set to their time zone. I would recommend their time zone because it will affect any calendar integrations that they have. Now, let's say that you are onboarding a new team member and you need to have them have default folders. This is where you will do all of that as well by creating the folder generators, which we'll talk about as well. And then you have the LMS, which we'll talk about as well. And of course, you guys may have seen the video on the checklist items. If you need them to complete a checklist, this can be where you assign it immediately, as well as onboarding flow. So all of these items can be preset and sent to them. So once they log in, they'll be able to have all that information presented to them on their login. And their hourly rate can be here, but it can also be marked as private. So only you see it and no one else. So I believe it's just you and the staff member that can see it. So, oh, no, actually, apologies, it's hidden from the staff member. So I don't know why you would want to hide it from the staff member, but if that's between you and them, then that's cool. With the teams, you're automatically able to just set up teams and then add individuals to that team. So it's kind of similar to what you'll see in circles that we're going to talk about. And you're literally able to just say, okay, I want to add this person to this team. Nope, I want to take this person out. You can remove them from a team here, and you can also drag them back and drop them in here. The coolest feature that I love to notate as well is the group, the team chat, which can be initiated here. So you have the ability to do like these chats, and you can chat to staff members, and then you can also do channels. The channels is kind of like Slack in a way, where anyone can join like a Slack channel, and you can do like a group chat in here, which you can also add certain people and they can see it as well in this chat so that they know it's DM'd. It makes this pinging sound, so it sounds very alerting. So they'll hear it, and also they'll get the notification. So if you mention them, they'll see that you got the notification. And so that continues the conversation there. If you don't know that there is an actual feature that allows you to put the same type of feature onto your website, so you can have the same chat feature on your website and it comes into SuiteDash for use cases. So similar to like when you see on Wix where you'll have that bubble, you're able to see that bubble pop up on your website as well. And it's used as like an HTML header code. The other thing that we're going to talk about now is going to be this custom content, and it's going to go quickly. So I'm sure that you guys may have tons of questions after that I can just sporadically answer. So the first thing I like to talk about is categories. Categories is really not as I don't really use it much, but a lot of people do. But this is great to customize if you are going to be utilizing all of the different features in here. This is like one of the first things I tell people to go through, make all of these defaults, something that you want to use in the future. One of the key things that I want to tell you is that you can delete some, but you can't delete all. If it's a default, it cannot be removed. And that really pertains to the project statuses when we get down there. CRM companies is when you're creating a company inside of SuiteDash as a contact, it will then allow you to select what type of company they are. So of course, you can change it with the name and the color. So if you're a person that likes to be brand colored only, then you can adjust it to your brand colors and you can set that as well. You can mark these as default. So if every company you work with is just going to be a construction company, you can default it to construction company. So they'll always have that default. As well as the CRM deals. This is something, again, these can be deleted, defaults cannot, but you can adjust them, of course, if you can want to update like your deals. There's an entire deal system in here, like a pipeline that you can use for sales. So that I've not explored as much, but I do love the idea that you can use that. You have the CRM events. So events, the same thing here. You can make adjustments in terms of what kind of category you want to use within events. And then you have project statuses, task statuses, things like that. Now, these are the places that you cannot remove the task statuses, and these are defaulted, meaning that every project will have these exact task statuses. So open, assigned, working, review, complete, and follow up. You can add to it. You cannot delete the ones that are there. So if you're not going to use these and you're in the Kanban view, you're going to see all of these plus the ones that you've already created. Just keep that in mind. And then phases, of course, you can add, delete, and adjust. Task priorities, again, these are adjustable as well. So you can make additions to these if you chose to. Portal pages, these are going to be groupings of portal pages. So if you wanted to add like a portal page category, you can do that. And those are settings that you'll do primarily there. And it just goes on. Like if you have like workspaces is a beta that they hide now, so you don't really see it. And if you want it, they'll activate it, but it's really not something you want to use. Plans, you can also default those type of plans. And then LMS and custom fields, you have those added there as well. So you are going to be creating custom fields with forms, and all of those form fields are going to be added inside of here. There's different types of form fields. The form name, the field's names is going to be private. It's going to be something that you cannot change. So if you call this Bob and you meant to say Bobby, you cannot change it. It just has to be what it is. And then the prompt description is adjustable, but it'll be the statement or the question that you're putting in here. So if the question is a referral, now the statement is going to be who referred you? You know, so you can add those in here. And then you can also, you know, add the usage. So if it's going to just be for contacts, if it's going to be for companies, because those are two different things. So you have contacts and companies. Companies, again, are going to just be company based. The best way to describe it is that they're just two different entities. A contact is an individual, company is more accessible to multiple people. And then you have an organization, which is going to be you. So your branding, your internal branded. So anything for this business is going to be under organization. Your staff, so this is going to be a field directly for your staff. And then work requests, which is something that you can use. It's kind of like support tickets, but it's more in depth for construction companies. You can actually, you know, create certain line items that, you know, if they have a change order and you want to make this custom field, you can do it that way. Projects, they're going to be custom for just projects. And then support, this is just for support tickets. So when you create that and you add it to whatever you want, then it gives you the ability to add those categories that we just spoke about. And then the type, you're also going to be able to choose from this list of items what type it's going to be. Now, with the knowledge of other form builders that you've used, it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is what you see is what you get. That's exactly what this acronym means, and that's exactly what it is. So what you see is what you get. It's just a custom text blocks that if you put a picture in there, you're gonna get that picture. If you put a like a full blog in there, you're gonna get that blog. So it gives you more flexibility of how you can customize it, and this is gonna be used around the platform. Email, this will be specifically for email like fields, but there's a default email address field that comes with this. So unless you're going to be using this specific as like a sub contact type of email thing, then you can use it and create a new one. But just say use the default if you're just using it for one person. Ones that I'm going to highlight right now is just going to be calculating a number. So number is used for if you're using a form, and I do this in a lot of cases where someone is completing a form so that the form, like the number on that form is going to be replicated on the invoice as a dynamic number. This is going to be trippy, but if let's first say if you're a custom business and you can't have like a default number for what you need to send your clients to pay, and you need to actually have a custom billing, right? I create these forms that are going to be your invoice for like your invoice input for the form okay, sorry, let me take that back. So it's going to be the number that you're going to have reflect on the invoice. And so I use this, and within this, I normally simply just pull it from this form and it plops into the invoice as a dynamic field. All right. And we'll test that so you can see it later. And then calculating is exactly what it sounds like. It calculates essentially fields together. So you can calculate field 1 and field 2 with addition, subtracting, multiplication, division. So it's pretty cool because you could do like PEMDAS and do all the things. So it's complex and it actually understands and it prints out the results on that as a custom field. So that's how you can do all the things. And then once you, oh, I should have actually created one so you can see it. So once you create one, whatever it is that you create, I'm going to show you what you can and cannot adjust. So when I click back in it, can't change the file name because that field name is going to be exactly what it is. And the description I can always change. Also can't change any of this. Now, one of the key things to also notate as well is that you can allow the contact to see it inside of your system, or you just don't want them to see it at all. So they won't see it at all, which is pretty cool. And then you can allow them also to have like a default value. So for example, if you're like, oh, every person that sees this field is going to see this thing inside of this, that'll be their default value. And then also you can hide the placeholder, which essentially a placeholder is just like that thing that appears in there. So it will hide it if you don't want it there. Those are exactly what those mean. And then if you're like, yeah, I don't really think I need this fill anymore, I would always say to delete it before you make messes and create more. The important thing as well is that sometimes when they were just converting from contacts only to company private, they had the ability to basically just create and populate the same uh, fields over for the company. So it would now create that for the company. So instead of the usage being for just the contact, now you can convert it over to a company private. So it would be easier if you just created one field type and then you just, created that duplication. So it just helps you. If you wanted to delete more than one at a time, you could just hit that delete button and it goes away. Same thing now with everything else. You can manage the currencies. So if you are in Europe and you have the E symbol as your money symbol, this will be reflected on invoices. You can create the currencies as well as here, and you can name them however you feel. That's pretty straightforward. The notices, now notices, you've seen notices before, ironically. Notices are what pops up inside of the portal from the right side. And so if I were to add like a notice in here, let's do something, you can actually add it to certain locations. So let's say that when a new client comes in, you want to put it on their dashboard so they see it there. So if they go to their dashboard, they're going to see this notice. Let's say you want to schedule it for a certain time and day, you could do that as well. And if you want to do it to where it stays on, then it could be visible for however long it can be visible for, but you can also set it to where it only stays on for a certain period of time. You can change the background color, the text, and also if you want to keep it active and persistent, you can. If you want to make it persistent for like 3 days or whatever the case is, or 3 times, or load it every page, you can do that as well. And then, of course, you can preview it. Previewing it would just show you what it looks like. So I didn't make much of anything. So that's what it popped up to be, and they'll close it. You see them all the time when a new like feature is released from SuiteDash. However, the biggest thing to notate is just that those pop-ups that you see as the admin, the client, the end user doesn't see it. So that's a big thing to tell people. Tags are similar to circles, but they're just different types of filters. So they don't have the same use case as circles, but you can use them in that same way. So what I mean by that is that you can create a tag, and the tag can be associated with a type of CRM, a type of which is essentially a contact, and then you can associate it with a project or an LMS course. All of those can be adjusted and adjustable. You can create them, you can attach them, and you can delete them. So there's just filtering processes. We kind of touched on payments already. This is the payment types I have on my list for the next thing. And just to kind of go down the list is the next one here. So payment types can be accessed two ways on that drop down, or you can access it through the system menu on the left. This is just going to give you your payment type. So let's say that you don't accept cash, but you accept like Venmo. Okay, so that could be a payment type. This is how you can reflect it on your invoices. So if you want to mark up an invoice paid, you can say, oh, it's paid by this payment type. So that's how that works. And then I showed you pop-up notices already, and translations is another big one that a lot of people talk about. Translations is what you'll use when you are trying to translate the entire system to a different language. So for example, if I wanted to use like my own understanding of Spanish, because I do not have a good Spanish speaking mind. But if I wanted to like go to Google and change them, I can change certain names to that certain thing, and I can lock it so that it always will be that thing, no matter who's on here. And you can also search for keywords. So let's say I'm looking for look. No, that's not going to help. Let's say I'm looking for form. anything that has the word form in it is going to pull up that for me, and then I can be able to change it. So specific words I can change, and it actually groups it so that you can be able to see it that way. And I like that because it matched 337, so that's a lot of stuff to update. It is a pretty manual process because you have to adjust it based on your language and your needs and desires, but that's how you can do it. It just allows you to customize every single thing. You can also just in real time do this literally for any menu item. So if you wanted to change a menu item from being like manage teams to something else, you can adjust that here as well to say something that you wanted to say. So that's a good workaround. Lastly, it's going to be the friendly URLs. So I can't touch this until I go back to the custom URL. Friendly URLs do not exist until you have a URL created. So as I was mentioning, it takes about less than an hour, as long as everything's set up correctly. Once you go here, you see all those green checks, and then you come here and you're able to customize the login layout. The top one is going to obviously be your domain. So this is the prefix as well as what the domain is. And then you have the login type. So if you click on one, you're able to see the layout. You can update the background if you wanted to. This is like a template one that I had. And you can also update that logo because, again, you want to make it customized to you. Any colors you want to update, the app icon you can update because you're going to hear the word, oh, I can have an app for my system. You sure can, but it's going to be a web app. So you can download the app itself on here on your phone. And when you open it, it's going to take you to a web version of the app. So it's pretty cool. You can utilize that icon as well, which people use it as their regular logo. You have a favecon update. So the favecons, if people don't know what that is, it's literally this little hyperlink up here. And so that's like one of the things that I like to use as well. And then the custom links. So if you were to have terms and services URL, privacy, you can add those as well on your website, on the login page. And so you'll be able to see what that looks like. To see your visual, you will have to click that link itself and you can see what it will look like. That's what the sidebar looks like. I personally like the side one, but some people like to see another layout, which I think is pretty cool too, which is a slider. And on the slider, you can start to slide images. And on the images, of course, you can put like little stuff like you could create the slider yourself with the whatever you want on there. And then you can also do like flips if you want to do the different animations when it slides through. Of course, you can default it to whatever you want, but what did I fill out? Oh, I didn't fill out something. But essentially, it allows you to just change all the items, and then you can add the images if you wanted to. The other one I like is really the classic version because the classic version is just like the bigger picture and it allows you this is really cool because you literally just have the picture in the background. They log in pretty easy. Similar to your activation screen. Then you have the quote one as well here, which is similar to what I just did on the image one, but this is for quote slider and this is announcements. So this is associated with announcements. So it's pretty self-explanatory. These are pretty recent. I want to say in the last couple of months, these were added because they did not have the last couple of ones. So you can also do all of the things that you need to do here. Now going back to the friendly URL, this is specific to your design for your URLs, for your forms. So every form can have a different sub, so it can have a slug is what they call it. And if you don't know what a slug is, it's your domain. So it's going to be your prefix with your domain and then the backslash with whatever you want as that destination name to be. So if I were to have this to be, this is going to be the slug for this form. So the form itself is going to have this prefix, all of this. And then if I wanted to just put in tickets, it would come up to the ticket form. So that's now the prefix of it. If it didn't have this, that default URL is going to have this long URL here. So if I were to copy this, ideally, this is the ID. So it will, I think there's more to this slug though that I can add here. Yeah, so there's more to that, but the default has all of that information in it. So to keep it clean, cute, and nice, you can just make your own default pages, and that will kind of keep it all there. All right, so we're exactly on time. I know that was a lot of basic information. Do you guys have any questions? Feel free to come off mic. I want you guys to ask because I know that this is different.
So with the friendly URL, you said the name was the form, or I didn't get that. The slug is what?
So let's do it together. So these are forms that you create. So this is going to be a form section. You can create 3 types of forms, or 4 now.
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
these forms that you have here, if you go to the options and then go to link and embed, you have 2 types of links. The links you're going to have is the default link, which is going to be this default link here. This is the direct link. And then you have
Okay.
the ability to have an alias is what they call it, which is AKA a slug. So now it changes
Oh.
it to have that alias URL. So instead of me using this long link to send to people, I'll say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is it. This is it. So it gives you that ability to do that. So
Okay,
that's
cool.
how you can change it.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Of course. How would a customer go to the front of your website, click buy or product, then we'll go to checkout without logging in? That is a great question. And I don't actually think that's something that's available as yet, because essentially okay, there's a few ways we can do it. Directly, the way that you're asking, it's not existent. However, there's a workaround that I would think through my head, which is I would create a landing page. So there's landing pages inside of SuiteDash. You can create these landing pages, and on these landing pages, you have the ability to create like forms. So if someone were to go on your form, which is a kickoff form, let's say you use a kickoff form to have an invoice associated with a choice on there, right? So let's say you want to sell like a t-shirt and you're like, oh, t-shirt size is going to be small. They click on small, you send them an invoice for that, and then it sends them the invoice. And then essentially that's how they purchase something without logging in. Does that make sense, Andrew? So you have that workaround. There's no like product that you can just have them click on it. And it goes the same way for a service as well. Let's say that they want to sign up for a consult call, and your consult calls are like $600. And so that call is going to essentially be the choice that they have in a button. And once they fill that button out, then you can be able, so let's say that they fill out this form, they select on this form that they want to do that, and then they do. Do they have to join and be added as a user to the portal? So once they fill out the form, essentially they will be a known user. Don't have to have immediate access to the portal, but they will be a known user now. So they'll be able to have the system will know who they are in the future, but they won't have to log in. They won't have login information, but they'll be known to have made a purchase. That's a good question.
So an unknown user can purchase from your
Absolutely.
site. Okay.
Absolutely. And anytime anyone fills out a form, they become known. Because what will happen, and the reason why they become known is because they go into this contact section. So they now are going to be known as a contact. So they're going to be filled in here as a contact, but you haven't invited them into the portal. So you have that ability to send an invite, but you haven't. So they're just going to be they're going to be uninvited. So when I was talking about the email templates, the if not invited, that'll be them. Any other questions? How would you create a newsletter subscription bot? Perfect question. All right. So the way to do that would be utilizing a form. And the form itself would be a general form. So this is collecting unknown or known targets. And so the precursor here is that you want to already create your, and I'm going to go back a little bit. The precursor is that you want to go to your marketing section and you want to go to audiences, because inside of your audience, that's going to be who your marketing target is. And then you want to create that audience. So I'm going to just do a random one. And then you can start to send them emails based on specific dates or based on when they're added. That's a default. Just create that. You'll have the ability now to see the subscribed and unsubscribed, because this is going to be a real email marketing tool. Now I'm going to go back to this general form. I'm going to hit refresh so that it can populate that I just created that audience. And then here, I'm going to say, oh, when they fill out this form, I want them to actually be added to an audience. So once you do that, it will load the specialty. You have to click load specialty features. What that does is to just gives you the default. There's nothing else that you need here. Unless you need a phone number, then there's a different talk about that. But this is a form that they don't need to log in for. They just fill out these different names, their name, their email address. You can name it whatever you want. And then down here, you have to make sure you select which audience they're going to go in. So now, just like any other email marketing tool, if you want to do a double opt-in, you can do that by clicking this, and it'll just tell them, hey, just want to make sure that you're going to opt in. It pre-sends the email, like it predestines it, so you don't have to do any typing unless you want to, and then you can do that. The other thing as well is that you can have it send you as an email, just say, oh, so-and-so just, completed that. Do you need the first name, last name, or can you do just the first name and email? So the only thing about this is that these are defaulted. So you do need both because the system will now register them as a known contact. So it does default to being both. You don't have to make it required, however, but it is a default native field. So I can say only the last name is, or rather you just said first name. So only the first name is required, but these you cannot like press the X button and default it. That's just the only thing. I can't or remove it if that makes sense, but they don't need to fill it out per se. But you can see email is definitely there. Perfect. All right, so I wanted to ask you guys a quick feedback to know, what do you guys want to see next? Because for the most part, I am taking just time to just teach you guys whatever you want to learn. This is just for the case of you just being amazing at what you're doing inside of your business for SuiteDash.
So I have a question. I am brand new to SuiteDash and have began setting up my organization. And I noticed that there is a lot of prep work that would make setting things up a lot easier. Like you're setting things up and then it's asking for circles, but you need to have your circles set up before get to that point in order for it to be, effective.
Yeah.
What are some of your suggestions? Like, what are some of the things that you do in prepping, like to get your environment set up?
So before I knew exactly what all that I needed, I definitely always started with this basics. This is why I thought this would be a great start. So doing all the branding would be perfectly first, and then going into your circles. So I call them groups in here, but
Hmm.
setting up groups, because what happens is that it will be used universally throughout the system. And so I normally try to think of my process. So what exactly do I need to set up? Andrew, I'm going to answer that question as well simultaneously. So a circle essentially is what's going to group and house people inside of a certain platform or type of setup, right? So when I'm setting up forms, I always set up the process of inquiry. So I know for sure that's going to be my inquiry process. Someone's going to inquire, are there a lead? So I create that, as well as I can add any prospects into this, as like any person that comes in, fills out a form. All of them will be defaulted into here. And then also, Andrew, to answer that question, with a marketing audience, you have two segregations. You have the ability to just create an audience separately than a circle, meaning that they're not necessarily grouped by this house, but they are separate. Whereas a circle, you can connect an actual audience to it. Meaning, if you are sending, like you're in a stage where like, okay, there's like 10 people inside of inquiry and they haven't moved forward, I need to send them an email. Clicking this button will allow you to do that because it's going to create an audience. So I don't have to manually go create one and then also link them to this. It does that at that circle level. So when I click add, the next thing that I normally do after listing this all out is I go now to think through my process. I always write it down first, but I think through my process. Once they fill out a form, they're going to be an inquiry. All right, after they fill out a form, they're going to be in discovery. So I think of, okay, now I need it's like a pipeline. The next thing is I'm going to create a pipeline for, the circle. So the next is going to be discovery call. Then after that, I'm going to create what will come next, which is going to be my invoicing. So I create a proposal slash invoicing circle so that I can know that they're in that stage. And then I create like a dashboard that has all of those broken down so I can see where they are. And then it kind of when you set the automations up, it essentially also creates those things as well, where it does, it moves them from circle 1 to circle 2 to circle 3 to circle 4. So that's how I set it up, the process first, the precursors. Does that give you a little bit more clarity? It's really, you have to see it to understand. And that's why I think these videos are going to be more helpful for you. So you can see, okay, so I set up an inquiry. So now I can go and set up a form that's going to essentially link to that inquiry. So anytime someone fills out my inquiry form, which is, let's choose this form, then I know that they're going to be associated with, let me go down here. They're going to be associated with this circle. So I'm going to assign them to the inquiry circle. So now I know when someone fills this out, they're going to be a prospect because I can customize this role. They're going to be an unknown. And then this is where I was speaking on with the unknown, meaning that they've never filled out a form before. They're brand new. So they're unknown. And then there's down here the known, which is they filled out a form, but they're interested in something else. So I can change their role from a lead to a prospect, or I can change them to a lead to a client, or I can change it from a prospect to a client based on them just filling out this form. And I can assign them to a different circle as well. So I can say, oh, okay, you guys are pre-existing, but I'll still, and this could be an inquiry form for them as well. So it kind of takes them through that route. And if you go down through your form, you can kind of see what precursors will be needed. So is this, I asked, is my inquiry form going to do automatic stuff? Um, you can use circles as like subscription levels. Yes, I do that. So I segregate them if I'm doing like admin, websites. So I segregate them that way for subscription levels. But if you're having this form to be in, the space where you are going to say, I'm going to have to, with this form, send them a document. All right. So I know automatically what will happen is they're going to be an inquiry and they're automatically going to get a document. But I need to actually create the document first so I can make sure that it sends automatically. So these are the things I always take a look at first, like what do I need my process to look like before I actually start to build this out? Because forms are going to kind of tell you your navigation. That makes sense? You can also say no.
So would you say that circles are more closely associated when you want to put them through a process or automate a process, and audiences are more, I mean, you're automated process, but it's more so just like marketing?
Yes. So I would segregate marketing for audiences. Anything audience is going to be for marketing. But you can associate a circle with a marketing audience.
Right.
You can
Mm-hmm.
be able to send them the details. Like of an email. And what I would say for circles, I use it for a pipeline only because inside of, and you don't really get it inside of here, like the trigger automations, because trigger automations come inside of a update form. And all this gibberish you'll understand in the later round. But when you're creating like an update form because they're a known person,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to see this thing called trigger automations. So with this trigger automation, it gives you the ability to do a few things. Because they're inside of the first circle, I can now remove them from that said circle and put them into another circle. So it kind of takes them from pipeline to pipeline. So when I'm setting up, for example, this works for any business. If you're setting up an onboarding process and you want to have them on certain portal pages or you want them to complete certain forms, if they complete form A, great. So now they're going to be out of circle A and I'm going to put them in circle B because I need to make sure they complete the next form. And then once they complete circle B, then they're going to be out of circle B. So it kind of takes them that way. Does that help with your thought process?
Yep.
Perfect. And then also it just helps too because just kind of look holistically at what it entails for automations. This is This is scattered throughout the entire platform, but certain automations you can do, and then certain automations you can't do in certain locations. But the automations are endless. You can do things like you can send an email to them. You can convert them if you wanted to convert them from a prospect over to a client. You can do that here. So if they completed a form and you wanted them to convert now, you can do that. You can automatically have them get a invitation. You can assign them to a point of contact, which is a coordinator. You can add those tags we talked about. You can set certain custom field values. So this is where if you wanted to like add a custom field and you wanted to say, oh, once they fill out this form, I know that they're going to be like, this is going to be set for this value of this custom form, this field. So that field can be added. You can send them invoices. You can send them proposals. Schedules are something that's also pretty cool. What we've done with schedules is we've set up them when someone comes into a new portal, we add, it's like a timer. It kind of just, it starts when it triggers, and then it has a schedule to stop. And so we use that for putting them for like a notification when they first come in, they have a survey sent to them in like 3 days. That's how we use schedules. And then you have the ability to send invoices, project generators, applying templates. So all of that can be done within the automation process. All right. Any more last questions? All right. Well, this recording is going to be dropped inside of the SuiteDash officials page as well. I will be having these reoccurring. I don't know if Fridays will be the same day, and it may switch over to Google Meets instead of Zoom, only because I'm switching from Google Meets to Zoom. But I really do want you guys to also submit questions through the form as well that I'll add in here, in the link as well, because I really want to make sure I'm asking you guys are getting the exact answers to questions. Miss Zay, if you wanted to stay on, we could talk, we can do that. But I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of your assistance, guys.
Me and Olivia here,
Oh,
we're joining you
absolutely.
from the UK, and we find it most useful. Very thankful for your help in understanding the intricacies of SuiteDash.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. I hope that I can help in the future. I actually work with a couple people in the UK right now, so it's really cool. So thank you. And it's pretty late there. Was getting later there. So enjoy your day, guys. I will be connecting with you guys soon. And thank you so much for your time.